I'm Sue Montgomery, and welcome to Dying Talks. In this segment, we're going to talk about talking to your family members and your loved ones. You know, it, it's it's very interesting that people want to talk about all kinds of things, except this very important topic that we're all going to face. And I understand that. That a lot of people are afraid of talking about death and dying because of their own fear. Their worries about their own mortality and fear about what's next. But so these conversations with family members, regardless of where you are, this isn't even just about end of life. For those of you who are facing end of life, if we would all have these sacred and really important conversations early on, less people would end up at end of life receiving care that they don't want to receive in settings that they don't want to receive it. So many people want to die at home, and they want to be able to be surrounded by what's familiar and with their family and friends. And a lot of people don't want to have a whole bunch of stuff done to them. They don't want to die in the ICU. Actually, a study that was published several years ago called Dying in America showed the statistics on that, about how many people end up dying in the ICU who they didn't even want that to happen. But what happens is that when we don't have these discussions ahead of time with our family members, then that's kind of the default. If something happens, call the paramedics, end up in the ICU, and then a whole bunch of, there's a cascade of difficult decisions to make. And if you're not able to make those decisions yourself, if you haven't had these conversations or you don't have advanced directives in place, it gets really difficult. I worked in the ICU for years, and I worked in hospice for years, and I can tell you that when people have just, had these sit downs with their loved ones, with their family and friends, and said, this is where I am. I'm okay with this or that, or if I something happens to me, I do or don't want to be in the hospital. Whatever your wishes are, it's okay. That's good. We want to make sure those are honored, and that's why I just did a segment on making sure you have your advanced directives completed. But the part of that, it's not just filling out the forms, it's about having the conversations, and that's really important to do with your loved ones. And they can be great starters into much more authentic and sacred time together. So if you're facing end of life and you haven't had some good heart to hearts with those who love you and you love, I'd encourage you to do that. Just be honest, and it will encourage those you love to be honest back. And I have found that, I have a segment called Golden Season Adventures. Check that out, please, on the website. But that whenever you are in a golden season if you're at end of life. And this is a great time to just make the most of the relationships that you have. And part of that is conversation and just being authentic and open and transparent with each other. It's a great time to say, I love you. Forgive me, I forgive you. Let's embrace the time that we have left together. So conversation, it's a great thing, and I encourage you to have some really honest talks about your loved ones, not about your loved ones, with your loved ones, about what your wishes are as you progress through your end-of-life journey. I'm Sue Montgomery. These are Dying Talks. God loves you, and so do I.